Dear parents, welcome to today's episode of Dear Parents. Today, in this episode, we are going to address some of the critical questions which we have received from across the country of parents asking many questions around how do they conduct themselves while dealing with their kids studying for their competitive exams. Thank you for the love and thank you for posting real genuine questions. We received hundreds and hundreds of them. So I'm sorry I couldn't answer or address each one of them, but for the benefit of all, today we have shortlisted few which we'll go deep into. So we have Cyril with us who has gone through all those questions and shortlisted some. Hope it will be beneficial for all of you. So let's dig right in. Hi Cyril, let's have questions from the parents.
As a parent, I'm sure you understand the challenges of keeping young minds focused and away from distractions. My daughter Shweta, who's studying in 11th grade and preparing for NEET, gets sidetracked by distractions very easily, and I feel like she's unable to focus on studying. I'm fairly certain that she doesn't have any attention disorders, but her attention span is really poor. Do you have any insights or strategies to help my daughter Shweta avoid distractions effectively? This question was by Biswa J from Chandigarh.
That's a lovely question, Vishwa. And first and foremost, all the best to your child for her preparation. NEET is a long preparation, and this question around distractions is a very, very, very real one. In fact, since we are talking to parents here, I'm sure all of us, even in our routine lives, everyday lives, feel that distractions are real. Even we get distracted. So it's very natural, first and foremost, for the kids to be distracted. So my first advice to the parents is treat them as you would treat yourself. Be patient and we'll work towards it. So coming back to the main question, there are a lot of ways a kid is distracted, and there are a few techniques which can be useful in addressing that. So we'll go through some of the main ones and see if that's useful for you and it works for you. First and foremost, we need to understand why is a kid distracted in the first place. And I think there are three main reasons. I think there are lots of them, but I think three main reasons because of which a child is distracted, especially during studies. The first one has to do with environment. Okay, and we'll talk more about that. The second one has to do with routines. And the third one has to do with goals. I would say as a parent, the most important thing which you and your wife can do is actually to work on the environment bit of it. The environment is extremely critical because what we have seen, and in my own experience in dealing with thousands of kids, is all they require is a small trigger. And when the trigger comes, they get distracted. So, foremost thing which a parent can do, at least in home, obviously you don't control what happens outside home. So this I'm talking about what you can do inside the home. So inside the home, try to create an environment which is trigger free, or as we say, distraction free. Now what can those triggers be? This I'm sure all of us know. Mobile phones, social media are the most important triggers for this generation. So try to have an environment, and that environment need not necessarily be a full room, right? That can be a small area, a study table, or any safe space where the kid is actually going and studying. So that environment, let's try to work on that environment, try to make it trigger free. I have personally seen that this is one of the areas which really improves concentration and actually can go a long way in providing a distraction-free environment for the kid. So that's one. The second thing which as a parent you can really work on for helping your child avoid distractions is to help develop a routine. Now this is a concept which is less understood, but as a parent you have a huge control on this. So let me elaborate this. Routine is just about developing a habit and ensuring that habit is reoccurring day in, day out for multiple days. It takes probably 20-25 days for a habit to get formed. That is what we read on internet, and that's what we have learned. It's not entirely true. Some places habit can form earlier, but any which ways, let's just stick with this rule of 25 days. And as a parent, try to ensure that you are ensuring a discipline of a pattern getting repeated for 25 days. Now, how do you do that? How do you help your child develop this routine? First and foremost, fix up a time, right? In a timetable, or probably when you sit with a child, agree on that from X time to Y time, every day you need to sit and practice some stuff for that period of time. This is an example of routine. There can be many other examples of routine. Another example can be like after your dinner, you will study for 45 minutes, right? It's very important that you have this in agreement with your child. It should not happen that you have thought about something and you are just superimposing that on your child. Believe me, in my experience, that never works, right? They will just they will just not do something which you are dictating them to do. So let it be a collaborative effort. Work a lot on developing a routine, however small, doesn't matter. And again, my suggestion to parents, don't be picky about what the child does during that time. I have seen a lot of parents committing this mistake that they feel that, oh, my child should study physics. So they insist that, you study, but you also study physics. That never works. Okay, let it be. Your goal, remember, is to develop the routine, not to dictate you study physics or you study maths or you study this XYZ thing. So work on this. This is a very effective method. Optimize for developing a routine and ensure that it is repeated every day without fail for at least 20-25 days. Believe me, when you do that, you will see habit formation to be so strong that the child will then automatically go, without you saying, will go and start studying. Right? So that's a very effective technique. The third one is to do with goals. Now, having said that, in my preference and in my experience, goal setting I would still prioritize lower than routine setting, because what I have seen repeatedly with kids is the students come out and develop big goals. Now the goals can be, I will finish this entire exercise in 2 days, or I will finish this entire book in 10 days, and so on and so forth. I'm sure as parents you will realize that we also make a lot of goals, especially on New Year's Eve, that I will do exercise, I will do this stuff and all. The problem with goals is after 1 week or 2 weeks, you're not able to do it. And that's a common thing which we observe, right? We look at exercise and we say that we'll do exercise, but after 2 weeks, we are not in that routine. So I truly and strongly believe that more than focusing on goals, you should focus on routines, which is the point number 2. So assuming you have done that, the third step is to develop goals and try to do small goals. Rather than telling a child that, become best at arithmetic, you try to focus on a goal which talks about, next 2 days, let's do 10 problems. What happens when you break the big goals into small bite-sized goals is it becomes easy, it feels achievable, and also the child is a little bit motivated to go for it and aim for it because he or she feels that, it's doable. So it's this third method of creating an distraction-free environment, because when you have these goals, the child is glued into it and kind of will finish it before getting distracted. If the goal is big, right, and while he or she is attempting it, there are a lot of chances of him getting distracted. But if you create a small goal, which probably takes say 20 minutes, the child then feels that, if I give this 20 minutes here, right, I will finish this goal and then I can go and have my fun. So these are the 3 broad areas in which you can focus on, and let us know if that's helped for you. So Cyril, can we have the second question for the day?
Hello Vamsi sir, my ward Aryan is quite smart and manages to score decent marks, but he procrastinates his preparation a lot. I'm sure he can excel if he started preparing earlier, but I don't intrude here too much because he seemed to be doing okay. Until recently, I noticed that this last minute preparation gives him anxiety. I have been asking him to stick to timetables so that there is no backlog, but he says that he studies better in the last minute when he feels like he's under pressure. Do you have any advice on how I can help my child stop procrastinating during his JEE prep? I am also worried about the stress he takes when he procrastinates. This question was by Prabhakar C from Tamil Nadu.
Well, Aryan, procrastination is a very real thing, and I'm very sure, Prabhakaran, it's not just for the child, it's also for us adults, right? We also keep procrastinating. So I think the answer to your question actually lies in that itself, that if you as a parent can reflect on stuff which makes you procrastinate, I'm sure you will be able to understand your child Aryan better and also able to empathize with him. So that's one food for thought. Let me also talk about some of the common reasons I have seen my students procrastinating, and I have seen students who I have counseled procrastinating. Procrastination is very real, and my first advice to all the parents over here is to first empathize with the child. Okay, and it's okay. Procrastination is something everyone does, including us. So don't make a big deal out of it, and let's try to work so that our child can learn how to do this lesser. It won't go to zero, right? There are a lot of reasons why a child procrastinates, and it really depends on thousands of things. So obviously, with the information you have given me, it's very clear that your child, Aryan, is intelligent. He does well in the studies, as you said. It's also that he's able to do the problems. That's why he's scoring also well. So it's not to do with the interest. Because one of the reasons why a child procrastinates is because he or she lacks interest in what you're asking them to do. Now, in Aryan's case, you're also saying that this child does last minute preparation. So maybe he's just trying to delay the stuff to as later as possible. And it's not that he doesn't get it. It's not that he doesn't know it. It's just that he doesn't want to do it at that point of time. Which essentially means that there might be a case of lack of incentive. So that's an area which you might want to explore. Because if a child is there, and we all know that, they are all more tuned towards going in a direction where they get some reward. Now that's not necessarily money. Reward can be just some gratification, some dopamine, like they play a game because they have a sensory pleasure of doing it. So you need to figure out that what kind of an incentive will appeal for your child, Aryan in this case, and try to model it and see if it works. For example, one of the things which really worked for one of my students was when for every 30 minutes of him studying, he got 10 minutes of music time because he was really into music. So what this technique did was it actually kind of like created an incentive for the child to do that 30 minutes of work, and there was a gratification of 10 minutes of music. So this is just one example. Figure out what Aryan really loves. Try to structure his schedule in a way in which you basically request him that, if you do X amount of preparation, you will get Y amount of free time in which you can do, ABC things. And that really works. That's one of the techniques which, kind of really gets him going. Another suggestion from my side would be check if the child is finding the stuff to be done very formidable, right? In your case, doesn't seem to be the case, but still it's worthwhile to check that you need to check that what is the work he is procrastinating and is there a pattern to it, right? Sometimes what I've seen is kids procrastinate stuff which they don't really know how to solve or what is the next immediate step to take. And when that's not clear, they essentially find ways to procrastinate. Right? The solution is very simple. You just need to break that big one into smaller tasks and probably maybe define what's the next immediate step to be done. So there's another thing which I've seen kids struggling a lot with, and what parents and teachers see is like, this child is procrastinating, but the problem actually is not of procrastination. The problem is the child lacks clarity on what is the next exact step to do, and because he or she doesn't know that, they procrastinate. Right? So these are some of the things which has worked. I have seen it working. Please try and implement it and check if it works out. Do let us know if it helps you. Hey Cyril, let's have the third question for the day.
Hi Vamsi, I'm Ananya from Delhi. My daughter Ria is a bright child who is studying in the 10th grade, but she often doubts herself and lacks confidence. Every time she prepares for an exam, she puts herself down. I'm not sure if she's just trying to lower our expectations or if she is genuinely a self-doubting child. Either way, I am looking for ways to help her boost her confidence level. I think it will be important in her overall character development and not just for the exam she is attempting right now. This question was by Ananya S. from New Delhi.
Thanks Ananya for the question. This is one of the most common pattern repeating question we have got in all the questions we have received from the parents. And thanks for putting this out. And we are using this question to address a broader sentiment which is very prevalent among parents. And Cyril, you would agree, this is probably the number one concern which parents had when they asked us that how do we address confidence in a child, how do we boost the confidence in a child, how do we keep the child motivated, how do we get the child out of depression. All of them kind of like fall under this bucket. So thanks, Ananya, for asking that question. First and foremost, the confidence in a child is a direct reflection of the confidence you have in the child. Please remember that. I'll repeat it. The confidence in a child is a direct reflection of how much confident the parent feels about the child. So, more than what you need to do for Ria, Ananya, I would say what you need to do about yourself, right? As parents, you need to introspect that is there some things which you are doing consciously or subconsciously which is making the child believe that maybe I am not delivering to the expectation of my parents. And please think and reflect over this. For all the parents, this is something which is very, very, very critical because children, they read everything. They don't read what you are saying. They read your body language. They read your expressions when they come home and tell you about their results or marks or anything. Are you comparing them with other children? Are you subconsciously not celebrating their wins or giving them positive talks? Or are you subconsciously emitting that energy of disappointment? Right? All of this is really something which as a parent you need to reflect. I'm not saying you're doing all of that. These are just a generic guidelines around to just have a self-awareness conversation with yourself that are you doing that? Because I have seen the number one reason why a child feels underwhelmed and a child feels underconfident is because they feel they have to prove something to their parents. So what do you need to do? It's a long thing, but for today, I'm just going to focus on few things which I've seen working well. So Ananya, the first and the foremost thing would be for you to have a continuous candid conversation with your child and tell Ria that it's okay to fail. I think as a parent, the biggest thing you can do is to remove the taboo of failure. And let's be honest, right? She's in 10th, right? Ria is in 10th, I'm guessing. So I don't even remember my 10th standard marks. I'm sure, Ananya, you also don't remember it, right? So we need to make it a point to tell our children that, it is important that you perform well. It is important that you need to give your input hours well, but the output, let's not make a super big deal out of it. It's okay. So first and foremost, you need to remove the taboo of failure. Make it a normal thing. I'm not asking you to make it casual. I'm just asking you to make it normal. We'll all work towards it. But if the worst thing comes, that's no big deal. All right. Another thing which you can do to improve confidence in your child is to celebrate the small wins. Right? We parents, especially the Indian parents, we are conditioned, and I feel I'm not stereotyping, but I'm an Indian parent myself, so I feel we are a little bit conditioned to aim for excellence, and that is something which we got as children from our parents. And although we tend to believe we are evolved, we try to superimpose some of those things onto our children as well. So for example, in one of my conversations with the parent, the child scored some 96. So obviously they were happy. But the very next question, the second question, right after probably 30 seconds was, sir, where did those 4 marks go? And that's the orientation. It's great. Some of the cases it works really well to develop that competitive spirit and to go for it. But you also need to realize that it does some harm because we are not celebrating those small wins. We are not giving it the due importance which it needs to be given. So one of the things which you can do is start celebrating those small wins. And those wins need not necessarily be outputs. Some of the cases, some of the times, and this is extremely critical when your child is in a phase of depression or really low on confidence, is start celebrating inputs, not outputs. Let me elaborate. For example, you create a schedule for a child, right? And there is a maths exam coming up. So one of the easiest thing which a parent can do is, okay, if you get 80% or 85%, I'll take you out for thing or I'll buy you something. That's output, and that's celebration on output. Change the orientation. You can also try this thing. Say that, there's a maths exam coming up. If you solve 5 problems today, I'll take you out for an ice cream or I'll give you this. That's an input orientation. So we are not bothered about he or she is getting 85 or 90 or 95, but we are bothered about that child able to do those 5 problems, which is great that they are initiated, and then you are celebrating that. So the child also feels happy, right? Output will happen. You're also not making a big deal out of the output, and you're essentially saying indirectly to the child that you just do your work, results will come. And that's a great attitude to have, and that's a great conversation to have. So see if this helps, and all the best, Riya, to you. So, my dear parents, that's all for today's episode of Dear Parents. Hope you were able to take some meaningful insights. I really look forward to you implementing them and share your learnings with us. Do post them in the comment section below. Also, please let us know the more questions you have for us to explore and deep dive in. We'd love to take that up in the upcoming episodes. The goal of this program is for us to work together to unleash the true potential of our children. So, stay tuned for the upcoming episode. Till then, take care. This is Vamsi signing off.